Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Today all about Sky Sports Fantasy Football, and there's £50,000 up for grabs for the winner. Will it be one of us? My name is Joe, and joining me ahead of Game Week 18's fixtures is Luke. Luke, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good. Ducking and navigating all this COVID talk, and football is like everyone is in the
Yeah.
fantasy world right now. But plugging away. Chelsea's last minute goal didn't do me any favours,
No.
but apart from that, not bad.
No, I was going to say we're going to bring a Hudson Odoi. I was trying to get a Hudson Odoi voodoo doll to stab him and say, no, now is not the time for you to score a last minute consolation goal.
Indeed.
Yeah, so okay, so I've got my team up on the screen suddenly at the moment. I actually didn't mean to put it out there at the moment, but one of the things we can say from the game week there is that I had Diaz and you had double City defence as well, so definitely getting the Hudson Odoi voodoo doll out. But the other issue there, the reason I put that picture up, is I've got Podence in there, so yes. Ordinarily, it might have been a good move, but he's injured now for 3 weeks, and so he's got to be moved out. So, okay.
It's that cursed position of yours, isn't it?
It's a cursed position of me, so we have some questions about that. So we'll come back to my team in a bit, but first of all, let's have a look back at Game Week 17 and just some of the latest Tier 2 and Man of the Match stars. Defenders and defensive players did very well in the man of the match. Tierney, a huge score from Tierney for Arsenal. Walker Peters, Højbjerg, defensive players as well did well. Gundogan, who's becoming everything player. He's box to box, he's striker, he's defensive midfielder, he's a bit of everything, which is great for the Sky game.
I feel like he does this sort of once a season for
Yeah.
like 2 games. He sort of suddenly looks like he might be an option, and then it just eventually ends up not playing there. But as ever, it's like if he's going to continue to stay fit and play in that position, then you have to think, well,
Yeah.
it could be an option, right?
Yeah, indeed. And so I'm not going to go there just yet because it could be a bit of a blip. Souček, who can't stop scoring. He's in that Fellaini role at West Ham. Lewis Dunk, who is, if anyone's got Lewis Dunk, he's actually not too bad in Sky at the moment, even though Brighton cannot keep a clean sheet. Passing tier 2, Holgate, Dunk, Mina, Webster, Mari, Luke Ayling, Silva, that's Bernardo Silva, Henderson, Thiago and Xhaka. So amongst those ones, Xhaka may be a slight tempter to some people ahead of Arsenal's single game week days that are coming up for the captaincy. Saves tier 2, sadly not my goalkeepers. Lloris and Johnston were doing very well there. And tackles tier 2, we've got Ben Davis, Walker Peters, Veltman at Brighton, Højbjerg, Neves, Mane, Phillips and Rodri. Mane is quite interesting there. Tackles tier 2. Not someone you would ordinarily associate with getting tackles tier 2. You want to see shots there. Which he hasn't got shots tier 2. Martial, Bamford and Lacazette are the ones there. So just to have all of those names there, anything sort of catch your eye, bearing in mind we've got a few game weeks left before overhaul and the transfers to be
Yeah,
made?
not particular. I think it's kind of one of those just random weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of those players, you wouldn't think are particularly good options or consistently hit the tiers. I mean, there's some that might, but the likes of Bamford's obviously been doing it all season. That's not a surprise. So yeah, I still think he's a good option. He's in my team, so I obviously do. Rodri for the tackles and passes. I mean, he's nearly always there. Still not sure he's an option at that price. And then
Yeah.
Højbjerg's another one that's just been plugging away all season.
Yeah.
You said, that cursed position of yours, for
I
example.
wish I'd
it's
just
like,
got Højbjerg.
yeah, just left him in, exactly.
Game
So
week
even
one.
when you have a couple of weeks of twos, you just ignore it, and eventually it comes back around. It's that kind of position that ends up wasting transfers, unfortunately. They're not by any fault. I mean, sometimes you bring these guys in and they've been great, but if they get injured, what can you do?
Well, originally it was Antonio. That's what that position was,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's sort of moved to defence.
And he's a walking injury, unfortunately.
And then he's moved back to midfield, and it always seems to be a player that gets injured. It's also in a roundabout way been Cancelo. It's been that revolving. And we remember
And Cancelo suddenly looks a great option again.
Cancelo's suddenly a great option after I got rid of him, and I got rid of him for Vestergaard. Vestergaard.
Yeah, no,
then
that
got
was a great
injured.
option.
Yeah. So there was it's just one of those things. So I've had some good points out of that. Before we look at my team again, let's have a look at yours. So you got Meslier in goal, Zuma, Rob Holding must be new in. Got some points from him. Cancelo, Diaz, and in a 4-3-3, De Bruyne, Grealish, Fernandes. That's just like a staple. Good old fashioned midfield there. Vardy, Salah, Bamford up top. That's quite template amongst very engaged managers, perhaps around the top 1,000. So you're doing well at the moment. You're well in the top 300, and you're set up for captaincies as well, especially with Rob Holding.
Yeah, not too bad. 267th. Been rising steadily, virtually every week for quite a while now. Have been using some swaps. I'm at my point now where I'm 20 left. So I'm at my exact quota that I want to be when the overhaul kicks in. So but like you say, I feel like my team's set up. It's just I need to get lucky now that I don't get injuries or any temptations. So for example, I'm tempted by Antonio for their 2 great home games. Stuff like that. So I may end up dipping just below it, depending on what sort of ends up transitioning with football, because we just don't know at the moment, do we? And that's part of the problem. But yeah, in terms of my players in, I mean, I bought Holding in a couple of weeks ago. So I bought him in for Brighton at home, where he got 9 points, and then he got 10 points at home to West Brom. So far, that's looking like a nice transfer because it's netted me obviously 19 points. But we've still got those 2 individual captain days to come off. So if he can manage to get me points in those games, then I'll determine it's been a success. But obviously, if he doesn't, or if he ends up dropping, which is always the worry with him, I wasn't 100% sure whether it would be nailed. Then that'll be unfortunate, I guess. But to be expected to in some regards. So it's a bit of a punt getting him. He's only owned by 1.4% overall, 10% of the top 1K, but I think that would have been bought in over the last few weeks. Now I could have done Tierney instead, who I did weigh up a lot because he's more nailed on. Often lacks in the passing department though, and we love these passing centre backs for Sky. So went for Holding, but it also worked better for my structure, meaning I could afford Cancelo. Whereas if I went for Tierney, I couldn't afford him. So typically Tierney goes on an absolute tear and is absolutely wonderful for that last week. But like I say, it just didn't really fit in my structure. So also that I already mentioned the Chelsea sort of goal in the last minute wiped out a possible double Man City clean sheet. But I really wanted 2 Man City defenders for this run upcoming because it's just so good on paper. I feel like when people are saying at the moment, you shouldn't really be using swaps, which I think is generally pretty good advice, because the game's all over the place, because overhaul's just around the corner. There's lots and lots of reasons for that. But when you just look at Man City's defensive form, and you look at their fixtures, to me it feels like there's still a big opportunity if it all goes to type. I mean, they almost kept a clean sheet away to Chelsea, very close. And I feel like there'll be more in the coming weeks. And often with their players, as we know, it's not just the 6 points, it's the 10 points you get for these guys. So if you've got Cancelo, Diaz, Stone, Ederson, you could be looking at 40 to 50 points every time Man City play and get a clean sheet. And there's how many games we've got? I think 5 games, maybe more from now until the end. So you could be looking at, for an individual player, close to 50 points for that one person if it all went perfectly. Well, so suddenly if you think if you have 4 or 5 of them, that's a ridiculous amount of points.
They're top in all the metrics in terms of clean sheet potential there, and they've got the fixtures to show. I mean, we'll look at game week 18 fixtures shortly, but they've got Brighton at home. That's a great fixture. And then game week 19, we scroll down there, they've got Palace at home and then Villa at home. So more potential for clean sheets there. And then moving on to game week 20, just scrolling through, West Brom away. I mean, just that block alone. We're looking at what are we looking at for February is coming up for the overhaul. And their fixture run continues. They've got Sheffield United at home. So in terms of using transfers now, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Man City have got great fixtures, and in Sky, unlike FPL, there's no limit. I mean, you could get 4. We could get 4 Man City players in, and to be honest, I don't think that would be too. I mean, apart from covering captaincies elsewhere, getting 3 or 4 is not a problem at all for Man City.
And aside from those those Arsenal solo games, there isn't too much need outside of popular picks for captains. So, also, if you gave me a free hit right now and said to me, pick your perfect team for the next 5 weeks, because the one just after that one there is away to Burnley, is the final game before Overhaul. So that run is ridiculous. I would genuinely have Stones, Cancelo, Diaz, Ederson, like 100%. I'd have those 4, and I would just hope that it goes to type, because I've just said you could be looking at ridiculous points from those guys. Now, obviously, they could concede a goal. Maybe some of those games maybe not get a bonus in. I mean, home to Sheffield United, I would have thought they would. Away to West Brom, I would have thought they would. You know, there's a few where Palace could maybe score. You know, Villa could obviously score. They're capable. But still, we're looking at massive points. So,
well, there is, especially in those kind of games with Man City. They're so, you know, they can keep possession so well against these types of sides. You can just visualize it now. Just Stones and Gundogan and Rodri just passing it around each other, ambling around, and then suddenly whipping it up to Sterling or someone, or De Bruyne, and then off it goes for a goal. But you can just see them just toying around with those awful teams.
But what I think more than just now, because you could obviously don't need to do those moves if you're quite low on swaps and stuff. I think that these next few weeks of City are going to shape our overhaul teams quite easily after that. I think if they do go on that expected run, then you're going to see overhaul teams that are going to have at least 2 Man City defenders, I think, after that.
Okay. Well, let's put my team up, because I put it up earlier, but work to be done, I think, here. So I've got De Bruyne and Diaz in, so I've got that City secure. I've got Patricio in goal, Zuma, Dallas, Diaz, De Bruyne, Grealish, Fernandes and Podence, who is injured, Vardy, Salah and Bamford up front. So on the whole, I'm happy with that. I'm just outside the top 1,000, 27 transfers left, so I'm okay for transfers. Podence, rather fortuitously, is very similar in price to Saka, who has single game days come out for Arsenal. And I like Arsenal's defence, but I also like Arsenal's attack for these single game weekdays. So yeah, Podence to Saka captain for the 2 single game weekdays that are coming up for Arsenal. That's definite. I'm sort of in the back of my mind thinking, will I want Kane back? Will I want Son perhaps? For Vardy, that's worked out quite well, swapping those 2 around. And I've done that at the moment. Kane went for Vardy. Vardy only got me 10 points, but nevertheless, that's a return there. Yeah, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I am going to go back to Kane before.
No, there's not really any entry point. It's annoying, isn't it? Because I did exactly the same as you, Joe. Yeah. I did it later than you, but I swapped Kane. I wasn't going to do this. I swapped Kane out for Vardy just because I was terrified that Vardy was going to do well against Newcastle. And in the end, it proved to be a bad move because De Bruyne actually hit his first return for about 9 months. The 1 week I haven't captained him. And obviously got less points as a result of using a transfer. This is the thing, transfers are good, but they don't always mean that you're going to get positive points. Sometimes they even end up costing you points.
Yeah, well, that cost me as well. But on the whole, I'm happy looking at the way the fixtures are planning the next few game weeks. I'm actually, there's days I want to captain Vardy, and when Spurs are scheduled to play, at the moment,
that's exactly my thought process.
We don't know whether the Spurs Villa game is going to go ahead anyway, by the way, next week. Because the Villa training ground has been closed as we're recording, which is Friday morning. So exactly. That's why I looked at the fixtures and I thought, I'm not sure I want to captain Kane on any of these days. There's other options.
Yeah.
But Leicester, however, I like, and Vardy, can score.
Exactly. That's exactly my thought process. I thought at the end of the day, I want the better captain for each day if I can handle it, which is Vardy. Kane, I don't doubt for a second, can do very well over this one. I'd love to have him in my team, but there was just no way to make it happen and have Vardy. So far, round 1 to Kane over Vardy because he only got only because of De Bruyne doing well and Vardy doing okay. But if the game now gets cancelled, that could be almost a lucky thing for me in terms of Sky. And then it's the away to Sheffield United one that worries me the most. I just have to sort of hide behind the sofa for that one. But later on, as you say, Spurs play on the same days as Liverpool most of the time. So you've got Salah as a captain, so you don't really need to worry. So it's just surviving till overhaul, really. And then after that, obviously, you can get him straight back in, or Son or whoever.
So for me, in game week 19, Saka will be captained against Newcastle on Monday. And then that's an ideal hop-off point, I would imagine, for Arsenal. I don't particularly want Arsenal going forward, but I've got 2 or 3 game weeks left after that. before overhaul. So that's one thing I'm going to be looking at the back of my mind. Saka moving on, maybe use another one, and then maybe just go for a Man City defender there and another player, and see where I am there. But I can't see me moving away really from Grealish, De Bruyne, and Fernandes until overhaul. I just see no need. I don't really see a need to get rid of Salah at the moment. Bamford may go, but then he's getting those shots. He's getting the shot tiers.
He's another one where he's just such good value. Gets the bonus. He hasn't got any captain days. I mean, you could captain him, but there are always a better option, I think, on every day. Yeah. So he's another one who fits that bill where, similar to the Kane role, I guess, where he's a good player, but not really necessarily needed for captains. No. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I don't think there's many. I mean, I don't have any planned moves. The only one that tempts me is Antonio. I think he's. I mean, me and you both love him. We talk about him every episode somehow. We seem to.
Yeah, he's great.
Home to Burnley and home to West Brom looks pretty damn sexy as long as he's fit. Obviously, we're going to have some games for West Ham, assuming they go ahead in the meantime, to judge whether that will be the case or not. But yeah, that Tuesday, the 19th of January, I mean, this is part of the reason that it pushed me towards doing the Vardy move, was I didn't want to captain a Chelsea player away to Leicester, and I didn't want to rely on the fact that Antonio would be starting that game, because if he was going to be my captain. So I thought I could get to that game and then he's not playing because it's 2 days or whatever it is after they play home to Burnley. They might not chance him, and suddenly I'll need to want a Vardy then, so I may as well do it earlier. That was part of the rationale. But having said all that, if he does start that game home to West Brom, he looks like a really good captain option for that game, doesn't he? So
totally. I was looking at the way the fixtures are in game week 19. So for me personally, as a Saka owner, Saka to Antonio, I'll be looking at whether I can do that straight or I need to make another transfer as well, because I've got 27 transfers left. It's the kind of maybe something else I need to do. I might need to get a bit of money. Maybe Patricio could go for another goalkeeper, something like that.
I do think, having said don't use moves, I do agree that now is a decent time, because I mean, I'm evidence for it, to make some moves up the leaderboard, because a lot of people aren't making those moves. And then you have to think, when it comes to overhaul, nearly all of the top players are going to have a team that converges, I would have thought, to having 7 or 8 players the same. They're going to be very samey teams. We've all got the same money, the same information. So when it comes to overhaul, we'll look at all the top players' teams, and I guarantee you they're going to have so many players the same, which means it's really hard to differentiate and get different scores than them. So I do feel like an Antonio could be a difference maker.
Well, looking at those fixtures, so the situation with West Ham is Antonio's hamstrings are made of Weetabix, but however, Sebastian Haller has just been sold incredibly to Ajax, who I don't know how that happened, but that's happened. So you would imagine another striker's going to come in. There's rumours of possibly Josh King, which would be possibly a great asset. So we're not sure what that situation is, but we know if Antonio's fit, Antonio scores goals, and he is an excellent option, especially against weaker sides. As I found out in my B team last season, got about 50 points from him one day. So I'd be looking at the next game back really for West Ham in the league, not in the cup, is West Ham against Burnley. So I'm going to leave that and see if his Weetabix hamstrings hang out, and then on the 18th of January, after Saka is my captain against Newcastle, on the Tuesday I can then move to Antonio. I've just checked, and the reason I had a little laugh just now, guess how much I'm short by to do a straight swap of Saka to Antonio.
It's got to be 0.1, isn't it?
0.1. However, that 0.1 is not like 2 million or something, so that's easy to do. Patricio is not getting me much points at the moment. I can move.
You could go back to an old faithful. Isn't Bowen 7.9? That's calling you already.
I'll go for Bowen again. But yeah, I can do that. Zuma may not have improved by then. There's room to manoeuvre there. Dallas is certainly not needed. There's players I can move on that's not going to cost me too many points, and it's going to in terms of it's actually going to make me points.
Yeah, well, I think if you do want to move ahead of the West Ham home to Burnley and take a bit of a risk, then you've called out the man to do it. I feel like Zuma away to Fulham, it looks like his time's gone. I mean, I still feel, I look at Chelsea's fixtures, right, and I think There's a couple of games there. Home to Wolves on
Yeah.
Wednesday, the 27th of January. Right, could we see a 10-point return for Zuma there, or a 9-pointer? Maybe. The passing bonus has dipped a bit. Chelsea not looking great at all. Wolves are managing to score, but it's possible, right? They could happen there. Then they're home to Burnley on the 30th of January. Again, that's another possible, you would say. And then they're away to Spurs. Can't see it there. So there's 2 games where I feel like he could do well. And obviously you've got that away to Fulham game on Friday the 15th of January. So I feel like a lot of people will move him out to Antonio, and therefore it's going to be one of those make or break moves, I think, where Antonio's either going to do well or get injured, and then Zuma's either going to continue to be rubbish or suddenly turn out 2 10-pointers. It's a really tricky move.
In my case, Zuma would be removed, if I removed him, would be a make weight. Just that 0.1 I just need
depends on your formation, doesn't it?
So I just need that 0.1, and then I can do Saka to Antonio. But looking at, he's 7.8, so I would be looking at 7.7 or below defender, and that's a decision I will make then. I'm not going to make. I'm not going to just suddenly pull out a defender out the bag. But there's plenty, because they play that Chelsea Fulham game is first in game week 19, so it's absolutely teeming, bags of options there. I'll have a look. I make it's Kufal at West Ham, for example.
Yeah, I was going to say Kufal looks like an obvious one.
Just go fully West Ham for a little while, and then see how I go. And just sort of, I'm trying to be a bit more pragmatic. Well, I'm not trying to be. I'm having to be more pragmatic. We all are. I don't know what's happening with the fixtures. Even when we've got fixtures in advance, they're chopping, changing, being cancelled. Spurs have seemingly got about 30 fixtures to play in the last part of the season. So somehow they've got to go in. So I'm sure there's going to be loads of 3 for 1, 3 for 0 options with Spurs.
And this is another reason why I say that come overhaul, our teams will be similar, because we're going to look down the list and see that there's teams that have got a lot more games than other teams. We're guided by the fixtures as well. Exactly. And then if Man City continue their storm as they are at the moment, it's just going to be teams littered with Man City defenders, and then players that are playing loads of games.
Yeah, Spurs, Villa.
Yeah,
I mean a lot of the players that are in our teams at the moment, but nicely cement them as well. So let's have a look at the game week 18, because it's a smaller one. So we'll look at game week 19 next time in detail. But game week 18 on the Tuesday, we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Next week, Sheffield against Newcastle, Burnley against Manchester United, Wolves against Everton, Fernandes for me. Same for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, no debate. Fernandes.
Yeah. Wednesday, the 30th of January, Man City against Brighton, Villa against Tottenham. The Villa-Tottenham game, as it stands, is a slight doubt at the moment, because it's looking like they're going to have to field the under-18s in the Cup, or the under-23s. And so Villa's first team might not be available to play Spurs, so it would have to be cancelled, have to be postponed. De Bruyne for me, but I guess Diaz or Cancelo could be options against Brighton.
Yeah, I mean that looks a fairly safe 10 points there, doesn't it? But given what De Bruyne just did, and now he's sort of almost playing up front, it seems. There's always a chance he doesn't play up front in this game, of course, but we get to see the lineup, so we get to see the lineup, see if he's playing up front, and I think 99% of people will end up captaining Kevin De Bruyne, because you just go for the you go for it, don't you? I mean the Villa Spurs game, I think is a tough game to call anyway. Even if it was on, I wouldn't know who to captain in that, because Villa are a great side, aren't they? So you just don't know.
Indeed. And then on the Thursday, Arsenal against Palace. Well, that's when I make my Podence. I'll see the team sheet once I see Saka's in there. Podence to Saka. If he's not, and Rob Holding's there, then I'll probably go that way. I'm just short to Tierney, and I only want an Arsenal player for a couple of matches, so I'm not too bothered. I just want I want good Arsenal coverage somewhere. I'm not going to go the Lacazette route. Others may, and I think that could be a good call. He's in great form, so I do think there is an option. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed any sort of striker. Good hop on off points to get Lacazette.
No, not particularly. I just haven't been looking for them because of that reason. I don't really want them longer term. But I feel like that match is going to have a big say in where. I mean, if Palace end up winning, Zaha scores a brace or something like that. And you've got Zaha in as captain, then you're going to be absolutely laughing. Most of the engaged managers are going to have a Tierney, a Holding, a Leno, Saka, an Aubameyang, a Lacazette. They're going to have someone. I mean, arguably, by the way, if you don't have anyone, you could consider just missing it. I think the problem is they've got another one next week, so it almost feels like you have to have.
I think you have to. It's like when. So I got Zaha in for that recent run that Palace had, where they had 2 single game. They were the obvious captaincy shout on 2 single game days, and so I got Zaha in. It didn't do me great favours, but at least I got some points from it, and at least I gave it a go. You know, the old, you know, if you can't win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket kind of thing.
Yeah,
you
got to be in it to win it. Sky's very much like that.
You've got to be, and I look back at that time, and I'd have done exactly the same again. There's no way I wouldn't have done that, and the same opportunities arising here. Lacazette, Saka, Tierney, Holding, Leno. Take your pick, but be in it to win it.
Exactly, and it's another reason why I went Vardy. I know people can say, well, you've got coverage in De Bruyne there, but when you looked at what De Bruyne had been doing for weeks and weeks and weeks and 2-pointers, and we could be sat here and Leicester played Newcastle, right? Vardy could have scored 2 or 3 goals, and if that had happened and you hadn't got him, that's a massive chunk of points to make back.
Yeah,
so in it to win it, and that's why we did it. You know, it doesn't always work. In fact, quite often it fails, but I think you have to cover it a lot of the time.
Okay, well, that leads on to the community questions. Benny Blanco asked best Arsenal asset for the single captaincy days. So for me, it's Saka, but that's the way my team's set up. If I had an obvious remove a striker for Lacazette, I would go that route. And then Adam asked, Lacazette looking better than Aubameyang for captaincy days, or would Tierney and Gabriel, if Gabriel can regain his place, be good options? So yeah, what do you think of that? I mean, Aubameyang, his underlying stats are improving, but could Aubameyang make or select the winner again?
He could do, but it would almost be on a whim at this point, wouldn't it? He's obviously a great player with a great history. But if anyone can predict that with any certainty, then fair play to you, because I can't. No. I honestly think probably the best overall is probably Gabriel if he's starting, because of what he's been able to do in the past. And he's just quite a safe option, you would have thought, because even if they concede, you would hope that he maybe gets the passing bonus and you get 5 points. Yeah. But if you're going sort of gung ho, then Lacazette is the one, isn't he? Who could easily hit a brace or something, similar to Aubameyang, I guess, where you could get really lucky. But yeah, for me, over the 2 games, I feel like Gabriel, if he's playing, is probably the safest. But Tierney and Holding as well, not far off of that.
Yeah, I think they're good options. Jason Jones asked, who am I replacing Podence with? I think I've explained that, Saka. And Paul T asked, hold or ditch Podence. So there's a few people with Podence there. I'm not alone. Moving on. I think Saka's if you want to keep the same structure, just go for Saka. But you can also move him to, say, Rob Holding, or if you can afford it, Tierney.
I think you have to get rid, because there's still 5 match weeks left, and he's injured for like 3 weeks. So there's not. Sometimes these injuries drag on. They say 3 weeks, but he might end up not playing for a little while. Might only get 1 game, Podence or something. So I think to use a transfer and say I'm going to use this person and get possibly 5 games or a 4-1 or whatever it ends up being, it's worth it.
The other option is, we've mentioned Antonio as well, so you can move in early for Antonio if you're a more maverick manager. You have to wait a bit, and so you have to have Podence stinking up your team for a game week. But nevertheless, you can move to Antonio and you can get him. I'm personally waiting a game. I want to see if his legs can hold out, but I think that would be a good option as well.
Yeah, I mean, waiting's not the worst thing when we've got a blank game week, is it? Where potentially we've only got 5 fixtures or whatever it is. If one of them gets cancelled, 3, 4, 5 fixtures. There'll be loads of players that, loads of teams that don't have a full 11 out this week. I mean, I won't. A lot of people won't.
No. And Auto Reclose, same issue there about Antonio. Should we be careful forcing Antonio in? His minutes are likely to be managed. So for me, captaincy wise, I don't particularly need him at the moment, but it's more a case of I need to get another injured player into my cursed injured role in my team. He's next in line. But I do think he's potentially a good option. We've
I'm
seen
the poster boy for this, because I bought him back last time when he started and then lasted about 40 minutes and then went off. So that was 2 swaps for 2 points. So I feel your pain, but we all know what he can do. We've talked about him enough. He's got great games, and I suppose we'll have to be guided by the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they seem to have been a lot more careful this time. It makes me feel like this time when he comes back, he's got a better chance. Because last time he was just in the starting lineup out of nowhere without even getting a substitute appearance. It was
Moyes
craziness. Whereas
pouring milk all over his Weetabix legs and it was soggy and mashed up.
that felt very much like he rushed it, and now
Yeah.
suddenly it's like, oh, we got to be careful with him. We got to do this. Yeah, you should have done that the first time, boys. To be honest with you.
So I think West Ham have cup game, so we'll get minutes there, and then he's got the first of those two good in a row
Yeah.
West Ham matches.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
And they've sold Haller, like you said. So
Yeah.
unless a player striker comes in, who's playing up front,
Yeah.
it can only be him, can't it? I mean,
he
can
could-
Ben Rama play up front? I mean, maybe he can, but I don't know of anyone else they would even put up there, to be honest.
Souček.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, he's done because Moyes has done that before, hasn't he, with Fellaini? I seem to
I
remember.
suppose he has. He has more of a number 10. Like, well, maybe he played up front. I can't remember. It's been so long now.
Yeah, it's
But
been,
yeah, that would be hilarious.
it's been a while.
It'd probably work, to be honest.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't got Souček in my Sky team. I do have him in my FPL team, and I do like him as a fantasy asset. And for some reason, I haven't gone for him in Sky, but maybe I should be addressing that.
It's funny though because they sell Haller because he's basically too immobile, can't move around. He's a big lump, and he's obviously not Antonio. He's not hustle and bustle, run around energy. And then they end up putting Souček up front.
Yeah.
He's basically, I mean, he's obviously a good goal scorer. He's pretty
basically-
much the same build.
Yeah, he's basically a small village in the Czech Republic up front. Suddenly, but yeah, it's good to mention him though in this because could be a player to get in. But thanks everyone for all your questions. We'll be back before game week 19 to assess where we're at really, and hopefully there's no big other major developments in the fixtures, and we'll have a bit firmer idea where we're going pre-overhaul. But in the meantime, Luke, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with your game week in Sky.
Same to you, Joe. See you on the next one.